There are three real indicators that Biden lost this debate. His tell is when he says, come on. He said, come on 1,000 times last night.
It's all going to be over soon. Come on. Learning to live with it. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, folks. Come on. Come on. Come on. Is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
That is how you know he's losing. Other way you know he's losing, he actually starts glancing at his watch in the middle of the debate. He's like, when is this over? I really have to pay. When is this over? There he was. Good look there from Slow Joe. Okay, so Frank Luntz had a focus group last night. That focus group described the various candidates. According to Frank Luntz's focus group, the words to describe Trump were controlled, reserved, poised, con artist, and surprisingly presidential. The words to describe Biden were vague, unspecific, elusive, defensive, and grandfatherly. Okay, I feel like a lot of that is accurate, and those are not words that really bear in Joe Biden's favor. Okay, so now finally we reach the debate. The stakes were quite high. The debate opened with talk about COVID. So this is always a topic that is going to be a problem for Trump, simply because no matter who's president of the United States, if a bunch of people die while you're president of the United States, people tend to blame you. If people die, it's the president's fault. If people don't die, it's to the president's credit. It's this bizarre sort of weird fixation on who is the president of the United States, as though the president has a magic wand and can just make everything better at a moment's notice.
2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, so that sort of language is what Joe Biden has historically pounced on. So Joe Biden has been telling one lie on COVID. It's a lie the media wish to reflect, and that is that if Donald Trump had handled this wildly differently, then hundreds of thousands of people would be alive today. Hundreds of thousands of people. If you got an empty chair at your table, that is Donald Trump's fault. The dog crapped the carpet, that's Donald Trump's fault. And the narrative is it's all doom and gloom. Of course, the moment that Biden is elected, it won't be doom and gloom anymore is the idea. But here was Joe Biden overtly suggesting that Donald Trump is responsible for every American who died of COVID, which is just crazy. I mean, I'm sorry, it's a crazy, immoral statement. It is immoral to suggest this.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. So this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
Okay, so if Trump ends up winning the election in a week and a half, one big reason is going to be because people don't want the doom and gloom. They don't want to hear the doom and gloom. That is doom and gloom stuff there from Joe Biden. And so Joe Biden is preaching doom and gloom, right? Trump is not preaching doom and gloom. And so this is where I think Trump started to make hay. He started to turn the tide, I thought, about 15 minutes into this discussion when he started talking about lockdown policy. So believe it or not, Trump is the candidate of optimism on COVID. It is Biden who is the candidate of pessimism, doom and gloom, eternal nuclear winter.
We're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9% of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it.
People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch out of habit where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he has never said, you said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Okay, I don't know what the hell Biden is talking about at the end there, but that is the contrast in vision, right? Trump saying correctly, we have to learn to live with it, which, by the way, is the exact same thing European leaders are saying. Emmanuel Macron has said this. Boris Johnson has said this. Everyone in Europe is saying the exact same thing. Joe Biden is saying, we can't learn to live with it. We have to we're learning to die with it, right? It's all like apocalyptic doomsaying from Joe Biden over and over and over. And then he went on to say, we're going to lose another 200,000 people by the end of the winter, right? Okay, if you're trying to scare the living crap out of people so they'll vote for you, good luck. I mean, I think there may be a secret backlash to this, right? If the polls are wrong, and I'm not saying the polls are wrong because I tend to be much more of a poll believer than most other people, but if the polls are wrong, it's because they're underestimating the amount that Americans are sick and tired of hearing from Democrats how many Americans are going to die at Trump's hands, and that we can never go back to regular life, and that we will be wearing masks for the rest of eternity, and that our businesses will be locked down. If there is a brewing sort of brewing underground against lockdown culture, it's going to manifest in the election.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Oh, well, no.
Okay, no, I haven't. No, I haven't ruled out more shutdowns. And Trump immediately comes back at him. And again, this is good from Trump. He says all he does is talk about shutdowns. It's literally all the guy does. All day long, he just talks about shutdowns. Democrats keep talking about shutdowns. We have to open everything, is what Trump says. That may be a vision that Americans are going to embrace, particularly if you have kids. Okay, there are a lot of people out there who are not on board with the lockdown culture. Here was Trump fighting back against Biden on this.
All he does is talk about shutdowns. But forget about him. Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying. We're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often, the cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Okay, so that was, again, I thought that the conversation, which turned quickly from Trump's rhetoric to what's going to happen from here on in, that conversation certainly benefits Trump. Then we move to Trump's second line of attack. And the second line of attack for Trump is that Joe Biden is corrupt. Right? That Joe Biden has portrayed himself as this nice elderly gentleman who is pure as the driven snow, and that ain't true. Joe Biden has been spending 47 years picking up little bennies on the side, which is not uncommon, but it is kind of gross. Right? So Trump did a good job of redirecting this conversation.
He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us. Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we found out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short.
You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
I have.
You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money. As president and as somebody that knows most of those people, I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me.
Okay, and Joe Biden looking a little awkward there because that is the fact. I mean, Joe Biden is outraising Trump on Wall Street something like 5-1. He's outraising him in Silicon Valley like 99-1. So this particular conversation started off with Joe Biden saying that he was going to take on Putin, which is just absurd on its face. I mean, he was part of an administration that overtly allowed Russia to take over policymaking in Syria, that allowed Russia to invade Crimea. He was part of an administration that removed some of the defense capabilities of Eastern European countries. And he was the Biden-Obama administration was awful with regard to Russia, but here was Joe Biden just lying about that because he did tell an awful lot of lies last night.
Everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin.
Okay, again, the Trump administration policy is significantly harsher on Russia than anything Obama ever did. In just 1 second, we'll get to Trump's counterattack, which again was this line, which is Joe Biden is corrupt. He's a longtime corrupt politician. Again, the fact checkers are going to have a field day with some of the claims that Trump made here, because again, some of the claims that Trump made here are just not right. But the overall implication, right, which that Trump was trying to make here, which is that the Bidens have been trading on the family name to enrich members of the Biden family, that is certainly true. Okay, so Trump had a couple of messages. First message, Biden is Captain Lockdown. He's going to lock you down. He's never going to let you out of lockdown. Second message Trump was trying to promote last night is that Biden is a longtime corrupt politician. So he went directly after Biden. As I say, it is worth noting here that some of these claims are just not true. And I think that for the sake of honesty, we should point out that they are not true. However, some of these claims are in fact true.
You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about?
Okay, so Trump is conflating a bunch of different claims right here. It is true that Hunter Biden picked up $3.5 million from the wife of Moscow's mayor. It is not true. There's no evidence to suggest that Joe Biden benefited from that, at least not directly. Okay, it is true that Hunter Biden was picking up enormous checks in Ukraine based on the Biden family name. It is not true, or at least there is no evidence to the effect, that Joe Biden was picking up any of that cash. It is true that Hunter Biden was picking up bags of cash in China. And this is where things have gotten a little dicey for Biden. There are emails suggesting that perhaps Joe Biden had something to do with it. Joe Biden has denied all of that. But here's the bottom line. If you're watching this debate, and this is the first time you're hearing any of this, this does change your impression of Joe Biden just a little bit. Because it turns out that Joe Biden actually overstated his defense of all of this. And there is something deeply suspicious about the fact that in American politics, and it is more typical of all politicians, that in American politics, you enter office, middle class or poor, and you leave office rich. That is a weird thing. But that's kind of the point, is that Joe Biden is a typical swamp creature, and he has been a swamp creature for a very long time.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent $1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because the kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken, I mean, your brother made money in Iraq, millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place.
Okay, and again, Joe Biden kind of laughing that one off, but he is worth $9 million. Now, some of that, I'm sure, is book money. I'm sure a lot of that is pension. But again, there are serious questions to be asked about why it is that every member of our public coterie goes into office poor and leaves office rich.
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world, I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. $183,000, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the vice president respond to that quickly, and then I need to get to a question to you. Very
No
quickly,
basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Nobody said that anything Hunter Biden did in Ukraine was wrong? Okay, there's a difference in legally wrong, and I'm using my VP daddy's name to make bank. And Trump kept hammering this home. Like over and over, he kept hammering this home. And finally, Biden responded. And this was, I thought, maybe the best moment of the night for Donald Trump. Joe Biden finally got tired of all of this, and he pivoted to what was obviously a pre-planned response. There's only one problem. Trump absolutely walloped him over it. This is the worst moment of the debate for Biden, bar none.
He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now.
That's a typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing. And then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk about North
Korea. I'm not a typical politician.
Okay,
that's why I got elected.
Okay, so that is a great debate tactic. Okay, he just Chris Christie'd him. So remember back in 2016, Chris Christie, Marco Rubio, they were in a debate, and Christie committed the world's first political murder-suicide, he was already basically done with the race. And so he just took out Rubio. Rubio had a shot at taking out Trump in New Hampshire, and Christie looked at Rubio and said, what you're going to say right now is that make no mistake, blah, 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 blah. And then Rubio came back and said, make no mistake, blah, blah, blah. And everybody went, oh, boom, Christie called you out. Okay, that tactic is the most obnoxious tactic. When somebody goes faux sincere, when a serious issue is being discussed, and then suddenly the candidate turns to the camera and says, the American people don't want to hear this. The American people want to hear about the things that affect them. For Trump to call that out and be like, Joe, you're so full of crap. I mean, honestly, we're in the middle of a conversation about family corruption, and now you're going to do the kitchen table. Yeah, you're a typical politician. It's why I got elected. It was the best moment for Trump. It was very, very funny. It was the best moment for Trump all night. And again, highlight the fact that Trump is not your typical politician, which in many cases is not ideal, but in this case is kind of ideal. That's kind of a good thing. Okay, that is not where the debate ended, and thus we continue. So the debate then turned to foreign policy. Trump was talking about North Korea and how he has a good relationship with Kim Jong-un. And then Biden started dropping weird historical references that just don't make any sense.
They tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good relationship
Trump,
with leaders of other countries is a good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get to.
That's like saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on.
Come on. If Joe Biden keeps going back to come on, that is a tell he is not doing well in the debate. He was not doing well in the debate. In fact, the United States did not have a good relationship with Hitler in the lead up to World War II. Joe Biden later said he was joking. There's no evidence that he was joking. That was not a joke. Okay, the joke doesn't even make any sense if he thinks that we had a bad relation. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. Like, it just undercuts what he's trying to say right there. Okay, then the debate turned to healthcare. Joe Biden issued a whopper last night of cataclysmic proportions. He said that nobody lost their private insurance under Obamacare. This is just a lie. Okay, in 2013, the left-wing fact-checking site PolitiFact declared it was their lie of the year when Barack Obama said that nobody would lose their health insurance plan under Obamacare. And yet here is Joe Biden repeating it, nonetheless.
The idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare.
So he's lying about his own policy and he's lying about Obamacare. His policy does not merely relegate public option to people who cannot obtain private insurance. It allows anybody to opt into the public option. Okay, this opened up the final line of attack for Trump. So there were 3 lines of attack for Trump last night. One is that Joe Biden is lockdown king. Second is that Joe Biden is corrupt. And third is that Joe Biden never got anything done. He's been in government his entire life and he's never gotten anything done. He points this out last night.
He was there for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years. And it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine. And it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like you went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. He's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally destroyed, and destroying your Social Security. And this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state.
He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them.
Okay, while I'm enjoying Joe Biden face-planting Bernie Sanders, like giving him the swirly, sticking his face in the toilet and flushing it, which is exactly what Biden's doing right there. He's saying, I don't agree with Bernie. I don't like Medicare for all. That's why I'm here and Bernie isn't. Recognize that the public option is, again, step 1 on the road towards socialized medicine. Pretty much everybody understands that is the reality. Okay, then the debate turned to illegal immigration.
Let me just tell you,
kids with their families,
let me just tell you,
Mr.
they
President.
built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages, and then it was determined they were built. In 2014, that was him. A lot of these kids come out without the parents.
These 500 plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border.
Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk.
Okay, and that was the big question, right? And Joe couldn't answer it because the fact is that it was the Obama administration that built the cages. And then Biden kept going on about all the things he was going to do with regard to illegal immigration, and Trump went back to, again, that third theme, which is that Joe Biden has been in government forever and never did anything about any of this stuff.
He had 8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
It is true. The catch and release policy is a garbage policy, and it has released not 11 million illegal immigrants into the center of the country. It has released many, many more illegal immigrants, probably closer to 15 or 20 million illegal immigrants in the country at this point. But again, Trump's main point here, which is that Joe Biden, he keeps promising things, and he's been in the government forever. He is not wrong. And again, Trump kept hammering this home. They turned to the issue of race, and Trump kept hammering it home right there. Here was Trump clip 38, saying that, you keep talking about how you're going to heal all the racial wounds of the country. Where have you been for the past several decades?
I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them, super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done.
Okay. This culminated with a very, very weak exchange for Joe Biden, right? All of this third line of attack that Biden's been in government forever and never done anything. This culminated in a really terrible moment, I thought, for Joe Biden. So here was Joe Biden explaining what he's going to do now. And Trump again hammers him with, okay, so why didn't you do it? You've been here for 50 years. Why didn't you do it? And Biden's answer is so stunningly and blindingly bad that it actually stops the debate dead.
In the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the since then, particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress. That's the answer.
Well, you got to talk them into it, Joe. Sometimes
all right.
You got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section,
like I did with criminal justice reform. Okay. I had to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we got to get on to climate change, please.
Okay, so Joe Biden stops absolutely dead after he says, we had a Republican Congress. No, you didn't. For the first 2 years of the Barack Obama administration, not only did Democrats have a majority in the House, they had a super majority in the Senate. They had a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. Okay, for the first 2 years of the Obama administration. That's how they got Obamacare done. They didn't lose the House until 2010. They didn't lose the Senate until 2014. So it's just not true. What he is saying there is overtly untrue. Okay, the bottom line is that he is all talk. He doesn't do anything. Trump is right about that. Okay, the final bad point for Joe Biden happened late in the debate. They're talking about environmentalism, and Biden has this very weird take that climate change is going to kill all humanity. And so he has pledged all of these radical policies that he actually probably doesn't like very much. And this culminated in what was probably the biggest boo-boo of the entire debate. And it will be in all of the campaign ads leading up to Election Day, particularly in Pennsylvania. This is clip 45. So Trump is hammering him on fracking. Right? Trump is just saying, you said that you want to ban fracking. And Biden's like, no, I said I want to ban it on federal lands. Okay, he's actually said, broadly speaking, that he does want to ban fracking. And then he said, oh yeah, by the way, I only meant federal lands. But there's tape of him saying over and over and over again that he would like to transition away from fracking or ban fracking or end fracking. Then he'll say, well, I'll just do it on federal lands. Okay, fine. Trump gets him to admit in this clip that he wants to end the oil industry, that he wants to destroy the entire oil industry in the United States. That is responsible for millions and millions of jobs. Okay, if you don't think this is going to be an issue in Pennsylvania, wrong you are. Here was Trump getting Biden to admit that he wishes to kill the entire oil industry of the United States. By the way, we just became energy independent because of fracking in the oil industry.
Would you close
It
down the
falls-
oil
By the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
And here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. Over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do give
All
it
right.
to solar and wind.
We
and
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then
Ohio.
I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context.
No, you literally just said it 1 second ago. He did not, in fact, take it out of context. That was you 1 second ago declaring that you were going to end the oil industry in the United States of America. Okay, so no, that one's on you.